The early years of 1959 would be the start of the Satan Disciples, aka the SDs. They would be started by the guy by the name of King Satan at the street corner of 15th and Tallman in the North Lawndale neighborhood. They first started on the east side before moving to that location, which was not a major African American neighborhood at the time, but the vast majority of the North Lawndale neighborhood was majority African American by 1959. The Satan Disciples was found mainly by Czechoslovakian and Polish white males, and they took in Mexican youths too that made up about half of the gang. Some legends have claimed that the name Satan Disciple was an idea spawned from the early Devil Disciples, the Black Disciples, and the Gangster Disciples, as the Devil Disciples taught the Satan Disciples how to gangbang. But this isn't known to be true at all, because the Satan Disciples did not have any links to the Black Disciples until 1978 when the Folk Alliance was established. The real origins of the name came from a priest that did community outreach in the area, and came across the original SDs and called them Devil's Disciples. That then gave the youths an idea to form the Satan Disciples. In the year of 1960, the Satan Disciples opened up one of the most legendary chapters at 18th and California in Douglas Park, which was in the North Lawndale neighborhood, along with 14th and Washtenaw too. The Satan Disciples also landed in the near West Side community at Taylor and Racing in the same year. They also opened up in the heart of Italy, West Pilsen area, which was at 18th and Oakland, which was another legendary section and was home to legendary members like Big Satch. And now the SDs was in 3 different neighborhoods within the same year of their existence. The original SDs fought against gangs like Gaylords at 18th and Western, Ambrose, which was another Latino gang located on 18th and Thrope, and the Latin Counts located on 18th Street and Loomis. The Latin Kings did not have any territory or any foothold in any of the SD section back in the early years of the SD's existence. Plus, the Latin Kings were not the #1 reason for the Satan Disciples coming together. There were bigger threats like the gangs I just mentioned. By 1964, Latin Kings began pushing their way into Pilsen and Little Village neighborhoods. Latin Kings wanted 18th Street in Pilsen and 26th Street in Little Village. But this didn't fly well with the gangs that already had been there. The Latin Kings were able to set up massive territory along 26th Street, but 18th Street proved to be a major challenge for them. This was because the Satan Disciples had held it down at 18th and California. They would eventually spread to 18th and Rockwell in the North Lawndale neighborhood to further solidify their presence and keep out the Latin Kings. The Latin Kings were still able to secure territory on 21st to 31st Street, all throughout the Pilsen and Little Village neighborhood. But the SDs made it very hard for the Latin Kings to exist, all up until the Latin Kings turned the Culture Counts into Culture Kings. In the late 1960s, the original Satan Disciples were fairly well-mannered and well-dressed. They even had their own brand. The only time they wasn't well-mannered is when they faced their enemy, and that's when the horns would come out. Speaking of horns, the idea of the baby devil with horns and pitchforks came from the comic books that the gangs used to read. Therefore, that was their new symbol, along with their intimating name. The SDs remained a very small fighting club in the 60s, but managed to keep all their turf except for 14th and Washtenaw. And they lost that because efforts were more needed on 18th Street and because the neighborhood was changing more racially, which just caused the original chapter at 15th and Tallman to close. SDs did lose some numbers in the late 60s due to some of the members getting drafted or enlisted to serve in the Vietnam War. However, those members were replaced by younger Mexican youths, but it still stunned the SD's ability to grow larger at the time. In the year of 1966, the Satan Disciples may have had a slower growth for a short time on 18th due to the war, but new territory was opened at 24th and Washtenaw when Big AG and Little AG arrived in the Marshall Square neighborhood. This would become a legendary chapter that would eventually spread up and down 24th Street between California Avenue and Western Avenue. The biggest 24th section would become 24th and Washtenaw and 24th and Rockwell. At 24th in California, Satan Disciples and Latin Kings would clash for many years, as both of these gangs claimed the same territory. At the 24th Street territory, SDs also fought with the Artistics and the Morgan Deuces, then later fought 2-6, Kents, and Carleton Deuces by the 1970s. 24th Street opened alongside Mexican and Puerto Rican migration to Marshall Square in 1966. By 1971 or 1972, King Satan was no longer the leader and King Canary took over. It was in the early 1970s when a Satan disciple named King Fish flipped to become a Gaylord. After he flipped, he convinced many white original SDs to become Gaylords, and this was the beginning of 18th and Western Gaylords. These Gaylords started because they felt threatened with the neighborhood becoming majority Mexican. As the 1970s progressed, Pilsen and Little Village became more and more gang infested as the gangs became more violent. The drug trade also became a larger phenomenon once the heroin trade began in 1970 on the streets of Chicago. Ambrose and Latin Counts were gunning for complete control of Pilsen, while Latin Kings were trying to dominate Little Village entirely. Satan Disciples viciously fought all of these gangs, even 2-6 when they first started. In 1975, Satan Disciples opened up new turf on the northern part of Chicago in the southern part of West Town neighborhood. After the Gaylords left the area in 1975, the SDs were just moving around in the Aryan Wood area, plus Huron and Ashland areas. In this area, the SDs fought viciously with the C notes. This would begin a permanent chapter for the SDs. In the year of 1978, a significant amount of Satan Disciples were now locked up in prison, including some of the original members. In April of 1978, the Folk and People Nation Alliance was created in Stateville Prison, which was a meeting directed by Larry Hoover, who was the leader of the Black Gangster Disciples. The purpose of this alliance was to organize the gang wars in prison and perhaps the streets. Larry Hoover and David Barksdale had made allies with white and Latino gangs throughout the 1970s, and they aided them in their war with the Vice Lords. It was rumored that the Satan Disciples first encountered with David Barksdale Black Disciples back in the 1960s, and a friendship was established, especially since the Vice Lords were trying to conquer everything on the west side of Douglas Park. A pre-existing relationship between BGDs and BDs made a smooth transition into the Folk Nation Alliance. The SDs then reluctantly unified with 2-6 and Ambrose, who also joined the Folk Nation, which brought these gangs together not only in prison but on the streets as well. But for this, SDs deeply hated Ambrose and were arch enemies back in the 60s and at least a good part of the 70s, especially after the leader of Ambrose, Luis Lemus, shot Mark Rodriguez in the leg and shot Fiddle Perez at the corner of 16th and Farfield in the North Lawndale neighborhood on October 19, 1974. Sometime after the shooting, when the Folk Nation was created, they became allies. When Folk and People began in 1978, Satan Disciples, 2-6, and 2-2 Boys formed an alliance called Insane. 2-6 and Satan Disciples took it a step further and became Insane Gangsters. This alliance squashed most conflict between SDs and 2-6 and allowed them to do business together, and with the Black Disciples too. In the year of 1980, the Satan Disciples opened up a legendary section at 51st and Wood, which was in the back of the Yards neighborhood alongside a new wave of Mexican migrations in the neighborhood. In this neighborhood, SDs made enemies with the Saints and newly arriving gangs like Latin Kings and Bishops. But in 1980 or 1981, King Canary was no longer the leader of SDs, and King Aggie stepped into that role. It was unknown what happened to King Canary, but he was no longer in charge by 1981. Throughout these years, SDs moved into Chicagoland suburbs, plus other states, and this would push the membership of the SDs over the thousands. King Aggie was able to run the organization even after he was incarcerated in 1983 for armed robbery. On the day of November 7th, 1986, relations between the Satan Disciples and 2-6 will reach a historic disruption. On this day, Ambrose gang members became infuriated with 2-6 from 28th Street over a girl and proceeded to drive to their neighborhood and shoot at him in the KT Town area of Little Village. 2-6 got revenge by crashing a party in the Marquette community at 63rd and Washtenaw, which was held by Amros in their territory. A group of 2-6 members opened fire into a crowd of partygoers, shooting 2 Tutu Boy gang members, killing one of them, plus they killed 2 Satan Disciples too. After this, Satan Disciples declared war on 2-6, which would become a legendary war that would never end. Because of this war, 2-6 dropped the insane from their name and became just Gangster 2-6, while SDs remained insane gangsters alongside of Tutu Boys. In the year of 1987, the Satan Disciples engaged in a very violent gang war with the Harrison Gents and the Milwaukee Kings in the southern West Town area. This war would intensify in 1994 when a major shooting caused Milwaukee Kings and Satan Disciples to face incarceration. The Satan Disciples also went to war with Maniac Latin Disciples in 1994, and the MLDs brought in allies like Latin Jivas and Milwaukee Kings to assist. But that attempt failed and Satan Disciples stood strong, fighting them all, until all 3 gangs left the area, leaving the Satan Disciples to become the biggest gang in the southern West Town neighborhood, as they continue to fight with the C-Notes and the Latin Kings. As the 1990s progressed, the SDs grown into several thousand members, becoming one of the largest gangs in the city. Over time, some sections will pop up while others were closed down. The reason of the closure of certain sections was due to the decision to withdraw, due to if an area was not profitable enough or the police presence was too strong. In the year of 1995, King AG was released from prison, but he soon found out that he wasn't embraced by all of the SDs. And many of the SDs told King AG that he shouldn't be the leader anymore, and that they wanted a guy by the name of Gizmo to be the leader now. But listen to this, because on November 1995, Gizmo was shot and killed. It was said that his own gang killed him, more specifically King AG, which King AG supporters supposedly did the hit for him. After that, the Satan Disciples never had another king. Over the years, SDs would grow to over 10,000 members and would have many active sets of today. But that'll be about it for this video. Make sure you like or dislike, comment, and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments what y'all want to see next. And as always, stay blessed and stay well. Yeah, I'm out.